Have you ever thought to yourself, I'm not sure why I can't make my mind up? Are you one of those people that you can't quite make your mind up, but you don't know why? Okay, that's what I want us to talk about today. I want us to talk about some of the possible reasons why your indecision has lingered so long. And if you're at the point where you're thinking to yourself, I can never ever make up my mind, then this is for you. We will start off by thinking about how long have you been thinking about that decision you know you need to make? How long has it been? I could bet it's not been days. So if you have difficulty deciding, it's maybe been weeks, months, and maybe even some years that you've been thinking about the thing you know you need to do, but you haven't done. Um, and how that looks for many of us is like we've planned it, we've researched it, we've talked to our mentors, we've talked to our friends, we've gathered information, but we haven't decided to do it yet. And so every day that you don't decide, you kind of stay exactly where you have been. So today I want us to talk about what are some of the things that are keeping us from being decisive. And then tomorrow we'll talk about how do we break this pattern deliberately. Okay, so of course, the scripture that all of you know I'm going to use is James 1:6-8. And that scripture basically says that a person who doubts, a person who is double-minded is like a wave of the sea, is blown and tossed by the wind. And there's a serious admonition for this kind of person because the scripture says that person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Look, that is heavy. That is heavy. We're not going to talk about that today, but I want to remind you what God's mind on this is. That's God's mind on this. And so indecision, a lack of decision, double-mindedness is not something we should take casually. It's not something we should take lightly. It's something, if we see it in our lives on a repeated basis, it's something we need to work on because it has serious consequences. And I don't think any of us want to be in the position of not being able to receive anything from the Lord or being in a position where we are unstable in everything we do. So that scripture tells us that about double-mindedness. And it tells us that that person has two minds about everything. You know how it works. Should I apply for the job? Should I stay? Should I launch the business? Should I wait? Should I make the pivot? Should I play it safe? And you just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like a wave, really, a wave that is tossed. A wave that's not steady because the wave goes this way, the wave goes that way. And that person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, not because God is withholding, but because you can't quite receive when you're double-minded. Because, like the hand comes out, but by that time you're here. Then the hand moves here, but by that time you're here. Like you're not steady. And indecisiveness is instability in all your ways. It's not just the decision, it's everything. And because of this, you can't move forward. You can't really move forward when you're constantly second guessing. All right. You put one foot in front and then you move back 3 feet. So why are you? These are three reasons I could think of. Number one, the illusion of having time. You think you have time to deliberate. You think you have time I will decide later. I will think about it more. I'll wait and see. But time is not elastic. And every month you spend thinking about it is a month you're not building it. The illusion of having time, it creates a false luxury. You think you can afford to wait, but it's costing you something. And that cost is compounding every single day. Number two, no agency. You're waiting for something external to make the decision for you, a sign, a confirmation, perfect clarity, someone to tell you what to do. If that's the case, you've given up agency. You're waiting for the decision to be made for you instead of by you. And that's not wisdom. Number three, you are afraid to choose wrong. You are afraid to choose wrong. And boy, don't we all know this particular reason? Because on some level, we've all had this particular problem in terms of making a decision. Everybody has had that situation where they've said, what if I choose wrong? What if I fail? What if I waste my time? What if I waste my money, my effort? What if I waste my reputation? And that could hinder you choosing at all. It could be a complete shutdown to you making a choice. But here's the thing. If you don't choose at all, here's a guarantee: you will regret not choosing, right? Because the biggest regret is not choosing wrong, it's never choosing at all. That's a bigger regret than choosing and being wrong. It's never choosing at all. All right. So those are some reasons why we might be indecisive. But now let's talk a little bit more about how does indecision show up in our lives? How does it show up? And what mask is the indecision wearing? Because indecision is not going to show up to you and say, hey, I'm indecision. No, it's going to wear a mask. So mask number one, I am being wise and discerning. I mean, you may call it wisdom. Here at Viola Ignites, we call it fear. Because it's procrastination dressed up in spiritual language. Okay, wisdom makes a decision, and procrastination is going to delay the decision, maybe even indefinitely. Mask number two, I'm gathering information. I love that one because it's so dear to me, because I was a constant information gatherer myself. My husband will tell you, gathering and gathering and gathering. And then the question becomes, how much information is too much information? When would you know it's enough, right? So researching for months, attending conferences, attending classes, learning, weighing my options. But so how much more information do you need? At some point, that information gathering is just delaying. It's just not making the decision. Another mask that shows up, and I believe shows up, a lot of us have this problem. I am waiting for God's timing. and I think this one is tricky. So I need to watch out here, because sometimes our waiting for God is legitimate. We need to wait on God. We need for him to say, okay, now go. So sometimes that's exactly what is happening. But I can bet you many a time, God doesn't even know you're waiting on his timing. Like, this is all you, okay? And this is all about your need for certainty. And here's what I want you to know, jokes aside. The truth is, you are not going to get certainty before obedience. So if it's a move that you have to make, if it's a move that you need to make, if it's a decision point that you need to have, you have to make that decision first. The certainty comes later. So you don't get caught up in this catch where you, in your mind, are saying you're waiting for God, but you haven't committed. You haven't given God your yes. So that's another mask that I think that a lot of us wear. And then the fourth mask that a lot of us wear is, I'm keeping my options open. And you know what this looks like? That just looks like you don't want to close any doors. You want to keep all the options open. You can't keep all the doors open. But that also means you will not walk through any doors. And that's quite the same as not deciding. So you can't walk through 4 doors at the same time. You got to pick one. You got to go through one doorway because you got 2 legs. So this whole notion of you leaving all the doors open, you're not fooling anybody. You got to pick one doorway to walk through. You got to pick one door to walk through. And so that would mean there's some other doors that need to be shut. And that is making a decision. So I'm keeping my options open. It's a mask that we wear when we don't want to close doors, when we don't want to decide. But keeping my options open is equals to choosing nothing. So I want to just run us through a quick kind of self-diagnostic as you're listening to this? Are you saying to yourself, am I indecisive? So ask yourself these questions. Number one, how long have you been thinking about the same decision? If it's been more than 3 months, you're not deliberating, you are avoiding. Number two, do you change your mind repeatedly about the same thing? So, yes, this week, no, next week, maybe 2 months from now. That's double mindedness. Number three, are you waiting for perfect clarity before you move? You know it does not exist. You know you are using it as an excuse. Number four, do you need external validation before you decide? Are you waiting for someone to tell you it's okay? That's no agency. Number five, have you made the decision in your head, but you have not acted on it? So you've decided mentally, but you haven't behaved like your decision. That means you haven't decided. And here's the thing. If you've answered yes to two or more of these questions, you're indecisive and it's costing you. So that's the diagnosis. The double-minded instability, the illusion of time, the lack of agency, the masks that we wear. And tomorrow, I want us to come along. I want you to come along. Let us talk a little bit about how do we break the pattern? How do we break the pattern and shift ourselves into this whole new momentum in this season? Because indecision is a decision. It's a decision to stay exactly where you are. And if you've been making that decision is costing you every single day. Now, if you've decided on your next step and you want some structure, you want some accountability, I will let you know I run an execution and accountability cohort called the Ignition Hub. The spring cohort launches March 19th, and it's only 20 spots. And you can apply at ignitemyyear.com, ignitemyyear.com. The structure will allow you to put some focus on your next move, put some focus on a project you're working on, put some focus on something you need to flesh out deliberately. So I invite you, if you need that kind of support, I invite you to check out the website, and you need to apply. All the instructions and information you need will be on the website. There will be a link in the description box below. So I'll see you tomorrow. Let's talk about how to stop your indecision this season. Keep the fire burning. I'll see you tomorrow.